All throughout the New York City subway system, there are many interesting quirks and secrets that you have to have a watchful eye for in order to spot them. I've already made a mini-series about it. You can check out all 4 videos right now, but there's one thing about the entire system that some commuters don't even know about why it is. It's the fact that the A division, or the number trains of the IRT, does not agree with the B division, or the letter trains with the BMT and the IND. In other words, stations just don't involve these 2 types of trains sharing the same island platform, because the A division's cars are shorter than those of the B division. Any station that serves both numbered and letter trains will have them as separate platforms, except for one massive exception. At Queensboro Plaza, N and W trains stop at a platform across from the 7 trains on 2 different levels. This oddity is exclusive to just this station, and why this is the case originates from a set of planned agreements between 2 subway companies before the MTA was created, one that is over a century old. So I'll start off with some background information. During the late 1800s, American industrialization was well underway, which meant an influx of workers. These workers consisted of a population of immigrants who came to the United States to find new work and opportunities. Unfortunately, this would cause an overcrowding of the major cities in the country. This included New York City. Its population had grown to 4.77 million by 1910, with the crime rate being at an all-time high. It was becoming clear that expansion to other neighborhoods and housing was needed. Undeveloped land could be used to house even more people, alleviating congestion in the city. The first underground subway line, which was operated by the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, did help to create new transit options, but it only served mostly developed areas. In 1906, then-Governor of New York, Charles Evans Hughes, created the New York State Public Commission to plan the construction for new transit lines. There was, however, opposition to this plan, who argued that Hughes was just in it for personal revenue. However, these plans would eventually go through anyway. Hughes thought that the expansion of the subway would spread people to other parts of the city and away from Manhattan to the other boroughs. It was hoped that it would encourage new housing development in areas that were more or less underdeveloped. Now, even before the dual contract was even conceived, there were 2 other contracts that would be managed by just the IRT. Contract 1 would involve a line between the City Hall Loop and 145th Street stations. This was obviously the first official subway line, which opened on October 27, 1904. The original line ran under Lexington Avenue until it curved left to run under 42nd Street, before turning right again to run under 7th Avenue. This contract would also involve other extensions as well, such as those to 225th Street right after crossing the Harlem River on the Broadway Bridge. Contract 2 would bring the line across the East River and into Brooklyn, where it would terminate at Atlantic Avenue, where the Atlantic branch of the LIRR also terminated at. Now, we're finally getting to the title of this video, the dual contracts. Also known as Contracts 3 and 4, these sets of agreements were signed on March 19, 1913, and formed a collaboration between the Brooklyn Rapid Transit Company and the Interborough Rapid Transit Company to extend current subway lines and to construct new subway lines for 49 years. Contract 3 was signed between New York City and the IRT, while Contract 4 was signed between New York City and the BRT. 618 miles of new track would be added across both companies, when, at the time, they only had 296 miles. The projects would cost a total of $337 million, with the city contributing $226 million. There were also many conditions that the IRT and the BMT had to agree to. Here are a few. The BMT would raise their fare to 10 cents for the new line to the Coney Island Terminal. The city would share the profits that were made from the new lines. Free transfers would be given where the IRT and the BMT shared a station. Freight trains could not use these new tracks. And finally, the IRT agreed to operate the Steinway Tunnel under the East River until it was fully renovated for its train cars. Formerly, this tunnel was used by trolleys, so it has a history to it that can make itself a video of its own. Okay, so now I'm going to list all the new extensions and new lines that were added from the dual contracts. I'll start with the IRT. First off is the Flushing Line, which eventually became the 7 train. This line originally started at Times Square 42nd Street Station and ran under the East River to head into Queens, where it would then meet up with the BRT at Queensboro Plaza before going all the way to Flushing. Then, in 2015, the line was extended west towards Hudson Yards in Manhattan, the second newest extension on the New York City subway. Now, when the IRT opened their subway line in 1904, the route took sort of a Z shape, starting at the City Hall Loop and running under Lafayette Street and Park Avenue, before turning west to run under 42nd Street, where it would then turn north again to run under 7th Avenue, and all the way up to 145th Street. However, as a result of the dual contracts, this original route was to be divided into 3 segments, which were to be appropriately named the Lexington Avenue Line, the 42nd Street Shuttle, and the 7th Avenue Line. The dual contracts would also change the original Z shape into an H shape, because there would be extensions to the Lexington Avenue Line and the 7th Avenue Line. On July 7, 1918, the Lexington Avenue line was extended north along Lexington Avenue and up to 125th Street, the last station before trains crossed the Harlem River to head into the Bronx. The line is of course today the 4, 5, and 6 trains, with the 4 and 5 trains running on the express track and the 6 trains running on the local tracks. Also, I just want to mention that the line can really get crowded with passengers, which is similar to what is happening with the 7 train. On June 3, 1917, the 7th Avenue line was extended south to 34th Street Penn Station as a shuttle service. Then, on July 1, 1918, the shuttle service was extended to South Ferry, and a new branch was opened between Chambers Street Station and Wall Street Station. Served by local 1 trains and express 2 and 3 trains, the 7th Avenue line stretches as far north as Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. Okay, the next new line from the dual contracts is the Jerome Avenue line, which had its first section opened on June 2, 1917, as a shuttle service between 149th Street Grand Concourse and Kingsbridge Road stations, with trains running through service to the Lexington Avenue line beginning on July 17, 1918. On April 15, 1918, the line was extended to Woodlawn, and a shuttle was initially implemented between 167th Street and Woodlawn stations. This line, which is today served only by 4 trains, cost $7 million to construct, with $3 million spent on the elevated portion and $4 million spent on the underground portion. Now, the Jerome Avenue line actually has another line that splits away from it, the 9th Avenue line, which, as part of the dual contracts, was extended from 155th Street Station to run across the Harlem River on the Putnam Bridge, with intermediate stations at Sedgwick Avenue and Anderson-Jerome Avenue stations, before merging with the Jerome Avenue line to head up to Burnside Avenue Station. On June 11, 1940, this section of track was renamed to the Polo Grounds Shuttle, but it was abandoned on August 31, 1958, after the New York Giants baseball team left the stadium. So, you can check out part 3 of Secrets of the New York City Subway to learn more about its remnants. You can also check out my video on the Putnam Division to learn about a railroad that also used the Putnam Bridge and had its own Sedgwick Avenue station in the vicinity of the IRT's Sedgwick Avenue station. So next, we have the Pelham Line, which initially opened at 3rd Avenue 138th Street Station on August 1, 1918, and then to Hunts Point Avenue Station on January 7, 1919. On May 30, 1920, the line was extended once again to East 177th Street, and then to Westchester Avenue on October 14, 1920, and finally to Pelham Bay Park on December 20, 1920, officially completing this line that is today served by 6 trains. Now, there are also proposed extensions for the Pelham Line, with one that would have connected the line with the proposed 3rd Avenue subway, which is not the same as the 3rd Avenue elevated, and another proposal from Phase 2 of the Program for Action to extend the Pelham Line to Co-op City. Next up, we have the White Plain Road line of the 2 trains and Rush Hour 5 trains, which first opened on March 3, 1917, from East 177th Street, East Tremont Avenue, to East 219th Street, White Plains Road, as an initial shuttle service, with this extension bypassing 180th Street, Bronx Park Station. This station was eventually abandoned in 1952. So, if you want to learn more about it, then just like the Polo Grounds Shuttle, you can check out part 3 of Secrets of the New York City Subway. So anyways, the White Plains Road line was extended to East 238th Street Station on March 31, 1917. It was then connected to the 3rd Avenue elevated on July 1, 1917, which you can learn more about in, okay, I think you know by now. And then the line was finally completed on December 13, 1920, when it was extended to 241st Street Station. Next, there is the Eastern Parkway line, which was extended east from Atlantic Avenue Station and ran under Eastern Parkway to Utica Avenue. This extension opened on August 23, 1920, which would mostly be served by 7th Avenue line trains, but you know them today as the 2 and 3 trains. On October 20, 1920, 3 stations on the Eastern Parkway line opened, which were Bergen Street, Grand Army Plaza, and Eastern Parkway Brooklyn Museum. Next up on the list is the Nostrand Avenue line of the 2 and 5 trains, which branches off the Eastern Parkway line and runs south. It opened to Flatbush Avenue on August 23, 1920, with proposed extensions to Marine Park and Sheepshead Bay, but they never became a reality. However, at Flatbush Avenue Brooklyn College Station, the tunnel actually extends beyond the platforms to act as a provision if an extension ever happens. Okay, so the last new line for the IRT's portion of the dual contracts is the New Lots line of the 3 and 4 trains, which runs off the Eastern Parkway line. The first portion opened to Junior Street Station on November 22, 1920, and one stop further to Pennsylvania Avenue Station on Christmas Eve of that year. On October 16, 1922, the line was extended to its terminus New Lots Avenue, with a shuttle service running from Junior Street to that station, and then through service to New Lots Avenue began on Halloween in 1924.